All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Super excited for today's episode. Lots to talk about, so much to dive into before the end of the year. If you're new here, please consider liking and subscribing. I rarely ever ask for that, so I'm going to start getting in the habit of that. But without further ado, let's get into the first topic here. All right, first topic here. This is by Steve Soretsky. Only 53 new condo units sold in Toronto in September. Very, very alarming. People have to remember this isn't 53 units total, including resale, stuff that's already built. This is brand new condos. So basically what this is saying is that the Toronto condo market for pre-construction has completely, totally hit a fault. There is just, the brakes are on. Nobody's interested in buying them. Too many people got burned. And we only saw 53 new condo units sold in Toronto, meaning that a lot of these projects won't even get off the ground. They won't even be able to get the funding to do them. Usually banks have to give about 60 to 80%. They want to see that many units sold, and they take the deposit money, hold it in trust, and then they're willing to lend on it. But in this case, a lot of these projects won't even make it off the ground. Really, really crazy numbers for pre-construction coming out of Toronto. All right, next up, we have from Dan Foch, record rental inventory in the GTA. So he kind of quote tweeted this one. So this is by Alex. Toronto Metro GTA weekly active inventory update. There was a noticeable jump in rental inventory, setting a new record high and pushing it above the pandemic peak. Really what we saw was a lot of people taking advantage of, or developers, not people, taking advantage of this CMHC financing. So getting longer terms, and then also they wouldn't have to pay as many taxes and fees if they built rental inventory, meaning purpose-built rentals. So those have become very, very popular, especially down where I live. We're seeing a lot more people jump on this who are looking to rent. Instead of dealing with a mom and pop landlord, they're going to these, bigger corporations that own these rental buildings, and they're giving them good incentives. You're getting 1 to 2 months rent off if you sign a longer lease. If you sign 18 months, I just had a friend come to me and he asked me, what do you think I should do? And I don't make any money off these purpose-built rentals. I said, there's a good deal that I heard about just at King and Bathurst. It's called West House. And he ended up getting 2 months free. And he ended up going that route instead of, me booking all the showings and working directly with another agent and working with the owners of the unit. He went right to the purpose-built rental their sales agent and ended up signing that day. It was a quick process versus what you see a lot of the time is, a lot of back and forth, checking out the jobs, checking out the history, looking at the credit reports. These, purpose-built rentals seem to be a lot more lenient on who they let in, but it's attracting people. It's attracting tenants. So that's kind of why I think we're seeing this kind of surge in inventory. So, overall, this probably isn't good for the mom and pop landlords. All right, this one's from David Coletto. He runs Abacus Data, really good data firm. They put out a lot of good stuff. So the cost of living is continuing its rise as a top issue, named by 2/3 of Canadians, the highest level this year. The economy and healthcare follow, but affordability remains the political lens. You can see right there, the cost of living today versus October 29th, 2025. So you have a 66% today, and October 29th, 2025 was 62%, a +4 on the rating. Again, that's not a huge timeline, but you can see how much higher the rise of cost of living is than the economy. The economy is at 39% versus the rising cost of living is 66%, meaning that, I know this isn't a shock to anybody, but Canadians are feeling the pinch, right? They're feeling the pinch at the grocery store. They're feeling the pinch on their housing. They're feeling the pinch every time they have to go spend money. So the cost of living is going to be a big concern going forward for Canadians, and a lot of politicians need to be on the outlook for this as they have to kind of bring or calm the rising cost of living issue down, or they're going to get voted out of office. So speaking of cost of living, I wanted to play this video that I watched on Twitter here regarding a grocery store that sells expired products.
A new kind of grocery store in Quebec is promising big savings at a time when food prices keep rising. The low-cost chain sells discounted items, sometimes past their best before date. Shoppers say the deals are hard to beat.
I'm at a type of grocery store that's gaining a lot of momentum. It sells discounted items, and people shopping here say they're saving a lot of money.
I spent 52 days, and if I would have bought it everywhere else, probably $150.
The food is sourced through distributors and manufacturers. It's sold at a discount, making prices more affordable. Another reason for why prices are so cheap is because they sell items that are near or past their best before date.
Just 5 years ago, people are looking, no, I'm not touching the box because it's expired. Now, because of the economy, people are, oh, you know what, it's 88 cents. I'm going to try it.
But while expansion comes with its own set of challenges, this type of store and the products they sell at a cheaper price are clearly in demand.
Just pretty wild to see. I would never expect the store to do so well 5 years ago, but I guess given the times and how expensive groceries have gotten, people are opting for expired food to save money. But the situation in Canada is just getting worse. I don't think a lot of people are going to just accept this way of living and kind of roll over and think that this is the only way we can do this. The standard of living is declining, and this is just another metric that you can look at and see that people are willing to shop at a store that has expired products. I mean, those stores can exist, and some people can go ahead and shop there 100% if they need to. I'm not knocking any of these people, but you can see in the video, like the store's full, like people are there shopping. And just, 5 years ago, if you told me that this would be a store and it would be very popular, I don't think I would have believed you. All right, back to real estate. So John Flynn, Durham region leads the country with the biggest losses from the peak, now averaging 31%. Prices in the Durham region are down 31%. At the other end of the scale, Quebec is still making new highs. You can kind of see just down here, you see Montreal and the province of Quebec have a slight increase from the peak. And then you have Calgary, Edmonton, these kind of areas, not too much of a drop since the peak. But if you look at the top here, you're just seeing Ontario, certain regions there just getting hammered. You have Peel region here, close to 30%. You have Halton, again, close to 30%. Or no, sorry, Halton was 25%. Waterloo region was close to 30%. Then you have Niagara, just about 25%. Peterborough, almost 25%. So a lot of these areas that are in Ontario are seeing major falls from the top. Big reason was I was in the business this time. The multiple offer situation were crazy. You'd have 15, 25 offers on some places. And, a lot of realtors who were inexperienced were just telling their clients, go at whatever you got approved for. And that drove up the price of housing, among many other things. But what you're seeing there is this, if you did buy at the peak and you're down 30%, most likely on leveraged money, and we're coming up to the 5-year mark, this is when usually people tend to move. Every 5 years, they tend to move up because they've gained so much equity in their home, or they've gained enough equity that they can make a move up to another home. But this won't be the case for a lot of people. If you're down 30%, unless you're forced to sell, you are probably going to stay in that house a lot longer than 5 years. You're probably going to stay there for at least 15, maybe for even longer. And we are seeing a lot of losses in the real estate market. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of people taking hundreds, $200,000, $300,000 hits in some cases. You see it all over Twitter. You can just get House Sigma. You can see it yourself. So there are people feeling the pain. But yeah, change from the peak. Wow, 31%. That's a huge loss for a lot of people if it is realized. Another one from Daniel Foch, 1 in 3 baby boomers say they will never sell their home. So I am actually seeing a lot more POA sales and a lot of sales where the person has passed away, estate sales. We are seeing more and more of that. And the house usually, I would say that the mechanics of the home are pretty good. Roof, AC, windows, furnace. They're usually in pretty good shape. It's just the inside, the more aesthetic stuff that needs to be done. The kitchens, the bathrooms haven't been touched in a long time. So I think that a lot of baby boomers, just the idea of moving can seem so foreign to them. It's just kind of a different time when they were living, right? Like a lot of millennials nowadays have to buy the condo, buy the townhouse, then you can get the detached down the road. A lot of baby boomers were able to, stay in their wartime bungalow as an example and raise a family. And then, they probably thought about selling 101 times. And then by the time they actually got around to it, it just wasn't worth it for them. So they ended up just staying in their home. So yeah, we are seeing a lot of POA sales, power of attorney sales, and estate sales. I'm seeing more and more of them. And my area is the GTA. that's where I do work. So yeah, I'm not surprised by that. They'll never sell their home. They'll just pass it on to their children or whoever when the time comes. Here's some October data from the Toronto Real Estate Board. So what we're seeing here, sales are down 10% year over year, inventory up 17%, and prices were down 7%. If you look at this chart here, year over year, sales, you had 6,138 in 2025, and then you had 6,784. So you had a negative 9.5% change in sales. More sales were happening last year. New listings were up 2.7%. Active listings, this is where the numbers start to get big here. Active listings were up 17.2%. So in 2025, you had 27,808 active listings. And in 2024, you had 23,722 listings. Average price is down 7%. Doesn't sound like a ton, but it actually can be pretty significant, right? You're looking at almost $100,000 difference here in the average price if you sold last year versus if you sold this year. Your days on market, what we're going to look at is the PDOM. Means that basically your property, a lot of what people do are they list, say you list at 1.2 million, you cancel the listing and then you relist it at 1.1 million. So it looks like a new listing. But what this does is it takes into account the total. So how many days were you on at 1.2 million and how many days were you on at 1.1 million? So you have about a 7-day difference here, which is actually quite significant. It's a 16% difference. So 7 more days on market. Will you survive? Of course you will. But it just shows that, active listings are rising, sales are declining, right? Your prices are declining and your days on market are taking longer. And you have to take into account as well, what was supposed to help the real estate market was all these rate cuts that we had. And you're still not seeing it come to fruition in the market. You're seeing the market continue to decline, at least in the GTA. Like I showed before, some areas are doing better. Quebec City and Montreal seem to be having price increases instead of the kind of Vancouver, British Columbia markets and Ontario markets are seeing declines. Another one from Dan, Canada issues just under 10,000 permits to Indian students from January to August compared to 76,930 last year. So a huge decline in study permits from India coming to Canada. For that same time period, a total of 149,875 study permits approved for Indian applicants in 2023. When you relate this back to real estate, you have a lot of landlords who probably bought in kind of these small towns or these cities that were going to rent out each room to students because the student boom was so much. Now you're seeing this huge decline. So I wonder if we'll see some of those areas take price hits, which overall, I really don't think a lot of housing should be taken up by students, more families in my opinion. But with that being said, a lot of these permits are coming down, and there was a lot of support from Canadians when you looked at polling. They wanted less study permits given out because they were seeing strip mall colleges. Really, you were just seeing these kids from India or another country being promised something that wasn't actually going to come to fruition. You're not getting a good education, most likely, at this new Institute of Technology that they opened up in a strip mall, right? You want to go to more universities that are accredited and have track records where you can actually try and use that degree or diploma somewhere to get a job. Most of them were just trying to make money, and they were just bringing people in from India or other countries and just taking advantage of them. All right, last story here. I've been kind of following what's going on in Alberta, just kind of the energy projects that Carney said he would kind of get going after the horrible era of Trudeau that we had. So it seemed like Danielle Smith was pretty positive with her meetings with Carney earlier in the year, but we still haven't seen a lot of her demands taken. Obviously, Alberta, very rich in natural resources, makes the country a lot of money. I know they get subsidies as well, but just something to note. With just 4 days until the Grey Cup kicks off, time is running out for Prime Minister Mark Carney to strike a deal with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith on the overhauling 9 federal bad laws throttling the province's oil and gas sector or risk escalating tensions. Smith has set the November 16th CFL championship as the deadline for a memorandum of understanding addressing the contentious policies inherited from the Trudeau era. These include repealing the oil and gas emissions cap, lifting the West Coast tanker ban, pausing the electric vehicle mandate, and reforming the Impact Assessment Act to fast-track projects like a proposed bitumen pipeline to British Columbia North Coast. So yeah, I know Danielle Smith and EB have been going kind of at it about these oil projects. Why I kind of follow these things, and I know this is mostly a real estate podcast, but these projects have implications on investment into our country, money coming into our country. And when you have these two provinces fighting each other, basically Premier Smith wants to build a pipeline from Alberta to the coast of British Columbia, so then they can ship oil to Asian markets, and we can kind of get away from this idea of being gridlocked with Donald Trump and kind of tariff proofing our economy. But then EB says there's no business case for it, which I don't believe. And he says that it's just never going to happen. So I don't know if Mark Carney steps in here, because I know he promised a lot of, getting our economy going, getting it tariff proof against Donald Trump. This is a way for us to have more markets to export to. I'm not a huge expert on this stuff, but I do follow it. So I was listening to the Loonie Hour podcast and saw that the co-owner of the Hub was on there, and he predicts that they will have some sort of deal with Carney and Danielle Smith to get a pipeline approved and going before the Grey Cup. So it is November 12th today. November 16th is the CFL Championship. Not many days left, but next week we can try and regroup on that and see if it did come to fruition. If it doesn't, I don't know what Danielle Smith does. I wonder. She's a strong conservative woman. She's very vocal about her beliefs and what she wants to do with her province. So I guess we'll wait and see what happens there. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you're in the GTA and you are interested in seeing what I can offer for real estate services, you can check out my website down below. You can also click the first link in the description and see if I'm a good fit for you. You can hop on a Zoom call with me. Just see if I'm a good fit. It's totally free. No hard feelings if it doesn't work out, but you can check out my Google reviews too. Just looking to put myself out there a little bit more. If you haven't liked or subscribed to the channel, please do. And please comment down below what you want to hear next. I am looking for a new co-host, hoping to get someone maybe in the mortgage space. So if you can recommend anyone down below, please do let me know. Just with timing, it's been really hard to team up with Brooke. Not sure what's going to happen going forward there, but I am looking for someone who's willing to just come on here and talk about the economy and real estate, and even rates would be awesome to have someone who's an expert in rates or just knows a lot about mortgage rates and bond yields and where you see those going. That would be amazing. So please put your recommendations down below. I really appreciate all the support. I will keep this podcast going. I know some people find value in it, and I do not take that for granted. I'll see you guys next week. Take care.